If your small group is going to be invitational, as it should be, then you're going to find that people will come to your group who aren't really familiar with the way that you do things. And when they come, if they find your group to be awkward or uncomfortable, they probably won't come back. And so we want to teach you how to avoid having a weird small group or a group that newcomers are going to perceive to be weird, because you want your group to grow and you want to enfold those people into your group to help them pursue God. And so the basic underlying principle is very simple, and that is be sensitive to the newcomer. Put yourself in their shoes. Try to see your group through their perspective, because you can't assume that things that have become comfortable and familiar to you won't seem strange or off-putting from the perspective of someone who's new. Remember, someone could show up at your group on any given week. And if we want to help them take their next steps in faith in pursuing God, then we have to be sensitive to their experience in our group. Don't put the onus on them to adapt to you, but rather it's our responsibility as the hosts to adapt our group to make sure that it's accessible and welcoming to a newcomer. And so let me give you a list of some just simple, common sense things to avoid your group becoming a weird small group. Number one is don't ask people to share private things. We're never going to say, hey, thanks for coming. Tell us about a time you struggled in your marriage. Number two, don't ask people to touch each other. You're never going to say, hey, let's all turn and rub the shoulders of the person standing next to us. Or even, hey, let's hold hands as we pray. Someone who's not accustomed to that will find that to be weird. Number three, don't do some strange group exercise. You're never going to say, hey, tonight we're going to read John chapter 13, where Jesus washed the feet of his disciples, and we're going to all wash each other's feet. That's weird. Number four, don't use churchy jargon. Be careful the language is accessible that you use in your group. So you're never going to say, hey, I'm so glad since I prayed the prayer that I'm washed in the blood of the Lamb. That might make sense to you, but maybe not to a newcomer. And then don't sing out loud. So you're never going to say, hey, let's sing as the deer. I'm sure you all know the words. That would seem weird. Then don't ask people to pray out loud. You're not going to say, hey, everyone pray for the person sitting to your left. For the newcomer, that's just going to be too much to get their head around. And you're going to also never make your group about politics or social issues. So you're never going to say, hey, I want to announce the Republican Party caucuses that are coming up next week. And bottom line, you can see from all of these simple tips, and you can think of other things as well, that the underlying principle is don't put people on the spot. Don't do things that only insiders will understand, and don't assume that a new person is going to think a lot like you think. You know, a lot of long-time small group attenders really cherish the practices of their group and the traditions of their group. But you know what? We're willing to surrender those things if those things stand in the way of newcomers becoming incorporated into our groups. Because our groups need to be able to engage and welcome people to pursue God. And that's more important than our groups existing to please us and our preferences. Now listen, if you're not sure that something is weird, if you think it might be, it probably is. And if you're not sure what's weird and what isn't weird, ask your co-leaders, ask your small group coach, ask your pastor about it. Because the bottom line is, your group will never fulfill its mission as a group if newcomers find it to be strange or off-putting, if newcomers don't come and come back. And it's our responsibility to adapt, not theirs.